The observation deck of Stellar Research Station Epsilon 9 offered a panoramic view of the swirling gas giant below. But Dr. Fiona Winters wasn't admiring the scenery. Her attention was fixed on the tall, blue-skinned alien who was dismissing her research with a wave of his six-fingered hand. "Impossible," said Varric, the lead Trellian xenophysiologist. His silver eyes narrowed as he examined her data. No carbon-based life form could withstand the atmospheric pressure of Trellia Prime for more than minutes without complete cellular collapse. Fiona tucked a strand of auburn hair behind her ear and tapped her tablet. "The human respiratory system is remarkably adaptable. With minimal genetic modifications, Your species overestimates itself," Varric interrupted. "I've studied 12 sentient races, and humans consistently display a disconnect between biological capability and ambition." "Perhaps you underestimate what determination can accomplish," she countered, noticing how the pearlescent scales along his neck flickered with annoyance. Their debate was interrupted by a station-wide alert. The overhead lights flashed red as the AI announced, "Warning, atmospheric anomaly detected. Shield breach imminent in sectors 7 through 9. Varric's expression shifted from dismissal to concern. "That's the primary research wing." "My team is there," Fiona said, already moving toward the exit. They raced through corridors suddenly filled with panicked researchers. When they reached the sealed doors of Sector 7, Fiona's access card failed. "Emergency lockdown," Varric explained, his long fingers dancing across the control panel. "I can override, but my people are in there." She insisted. Their eyes met, a moment of understanding passing between them despite their differences. Varric nodded and completed the override. As the doors slid open, toxic atmosphere billowed into the corridor. Varric instinctively pulled back, but Fiona activated her emergency breathing apparatus and plunged forward. 3 researchers were trapped inside, conscious near their workstations. Fiona checked vital signs while Varric secured the breach. His movements precise and efficient despite his obvious discomfort in the contaminated air. "We need to move them now," Fiona shouted over the alarms. "Help me." Together they dragged the unconscious researchers to safety just as emergency crews arrived. In the aftermath, Fiona found Varric staring at her with newfound curiosity. "You risked significant cellular damage," he observed. Fiona shrugged. "It's what humans do." "Fascinating," he murmured. "Your respiratory system showed only minimal stress, despite 30 seconds of exposure. Like I said, we adapt." Varric's silver eyes gleamed. "Perhaps we should continue this discussion? My laboratory on level 3 is better equipped for physiological analysis." "Is this a professional invitation, Doctor?" Fiona asked with a slight smile. "Scientific curiosity," he replied, though something in his voice suggested more. "Your species presents... unexpected variables." "I'll take that as a compliment," she said, feeling an unexpected flutter of interest that had nothing to do with exenobilil. As they walked together toward his lab, Fiona noticed how the emergency had shifted something between them. What had begun as academic dismissal now held a spark of possibility, both scientific and perhaps something more personal that neither had anticipated when the day began. Trial by fire. The research outpost on Trellia's smallest moon wasn't designed for long-term habitation, especially not for a human and Trellian force to share the cramped space. 3 days after the meteor shower that had destroyed their shuttle and communications array, Fiona watched Varric meticulously measure the dwindling oxygen reserves. 6 days, he announced, his normally melodic voice tight with concern. "Possibly 7, if we reduce physical activity." Fiona nodded, continuing to disassemble the damaged communications console. "I'll have this fixed before then." "Your optimism is illogical," Varric said, though without the condescension that had marked their early interactions. "The damage is extensive." "Humans specialize in beating impossible odds," she replied, her fingers deftly rewiring circuits that Varric had deemed irreparable. The Trellian scientist moved closer, the bioluminescent patterns along his forearms pulsing with interest as he observed her work. "Your hands should be trembling from oxygen deprivation, yet your fine motor skills remain intact. Told you we're adaptable. She glanced up, surprised by his proximity. In the dim emergency lighting, his silver eyes seemed to glow. It defies explanation, he murmured, more to himself than to her. Your cellular efficiency exceeds all projected models. The console sparked, and Fiona jerked back. Bumping against Varric, his cool skin touched hers, and a strange current seemed to pass between them. For a moment, neither moved away. Sorry, she said finally, turning back to her work. Almost got it. That night, as temperatures in the outpost plummeted with the lunar cycle, Fiona found herself shivering, despite her thermal gear. Trellians naturally regulated their body temperature, but humans weren't so fortunate. Your core temperature is dropping, Varric observed, approaching her workstation with an extra thermal blanket. You require rest. I'm fine, she insisted, though her chattering teeth betrayed her. Without warning, Varric placed his hands on her shoulders. A gentle warmth radiated from his touch as his natural bioluminescence brightened. What are you doing? Fiona asked, startled but not pulling away. Trellian heat transfer, he explained. A survival technique for younglings. Your physiology appears compatible. The warmth spread through her body, pleasant and soothing. I didn't know Trillians could do that. There's much about each other we don't know, he said quietly, in that moment. Something shifted between them, a professional boundary blurring into something undefined. As Fiona's shivering subsided, she found herself reluctant to break the connection. Why did you really invite me to this outpost, Varric? She asked. It wasn't just to prove humans couldn't survive Trellian conditions. His bioluminescent patterns flickered in what she'd come to recognize as hesitation. You represented an anomaly in my research. Human adaptability. It shouldn't be possible according to established xenobiology. Now I find myself reevaluating many assumptions, he admitted, about humans, about possibilities. The communications console suddenly crackled with static, interrupting the moment. Fiona jumped up, her exhaustion forgotten as she adjusted frequencies. It's working, she exclaimed. Varric joined her. His expression a mixture of relief and something else's appointment that their isolation was ending. As they transmitted their distress signal, Fiona wondered what would happen when they returned to the station. Would they revert to being just colleagues, or had these days of shared survival kindled something that neither of them had anticipated or were prepared to acknowledge? The emergency rescue shuttle's docking procedure had been delayed by atmospheric disturbances, giving Fiona time to explore the outpost's restricted areas. Her curiosity had been piqued by Varric's secretive comings and goings to a laboratory section he'd claimed was non-functional. When she bypassed the security lock, the truth revealed itself in illuminated display tanks and data screens. Varric had been studying human tissue samples, her samples collected during routine medical scans. What is this? She demanded when he discovered her there, her voice echoing in the sterile chamber. Varric's bioluminescent. Patterns darkened with what she now recognized as embarrassment. Research that could save my species. Before he could elaborate, the outpost's security system blared. External sensors showed an unmarked vessel approaching, not their expected rescue. Raiders, Varric hissed, his scales flattening against his neck. They hunt for valuable research. Like your work on human adaptation? Fiona asked, the pieces falling into place. Varric nodded grimly. The consortium would pay fortunes for such data. We must destroy it before they breach our defenses. Fiona studied the laboratory, seeing weeks of meticulous work. There has to be another way. The first explosion rocked the outpost. With practiced efficiency, Varric secured access points while Fiona gathered essential data cores. Why is this research so important? She asked as they barricaded themselves in the central lab. Varric's silver eyes met hers. Trellians are dying. Our genetic structure is degrading with each generation. Human adaptive capabilities might hold the key to our survival. Another explosion, closer this time. The raiders were cutting through the outer doors. You should have told me, Fiona said, hurt mixing with understanding. Would you have consented to being my research subject? Their eyes locked, and suddenly the tension between them shifted into something electric. You could have just asked, he whispered. The moment was shattered by the screech of metal as the raiders breached the adjacent chamber. 3 figures in environmental suits burst in, weapons raised. The research data, now. Their leader demanded through a translator. Varric positioned himself between the raiders and Fiona. It's been destroyed. The leader aimed at Varric. Then you're of no use to us.
Out! Thinking.
Fiona threw herself forward, tackling the leader as Varric disabled the other 2 with a pulse from a concealed weapon. In the chaos, Fiona's environmental suit tore, exposing her to the thin atmosphere. As the raiders retreated, Fiona collapsed, gasping. Varric rushed to her side, genuine fear in his eyes as he administered emergency oxygen. "Why would you risk yourself?" he demanded, cradling her head. Through labored breaths, she managed to smile. "Humans protect what matters to them." Something changed in Varric's expression. Without warning, he pressed his forehead to hers, an intimate Trellian gesture. "You continue to defy all my expectations, Fiona Winters." As her breathing stabilized, she felt the warmth of his touch spreading through her body. Different from the survival heat transfer, this was deliberate. "Personal, the research," she whispered. "I want to help. Officially." His bioluminescence brightened with surprise. "You would consent?" "After I concealed my intentions?" "Science is about second chances," she said. "And maybe some things are worth the risk." The rescue shuttle's arrival signal interrupted them. But something profound had been acknowledged between the xenobiologist and her alien research partner, something that transcended professional collaboration and ventured into territory neither had expected to explore. The revelation, the journey to Varric's hidden laboratory beneath Trelia, Prime's northern ice shelf, was fraught with tension. Since escaping the raiders, they'd spoken little about what had transpired between them, focusing instead on evading consortium agents hunting for Varric's research. "Few non-Trellians have seen this place," Varric said as their transport descended through a concealed entrance in the glacial surface. Fiona watched in awe as massive caverns opened before them, illuminated by the natural bioluminescence of Trellian architecture. "It's beautiful," she breathed. "It was once our primary research facility," he explained, his voice tinged with sadness. "Now it houses the last hope for our genetic future." Inside, Fiona discovered the true scope of Varric's work. Hundreds of stasis chambers lined the walls, each containing a Trellian, showing signs of genetic degradation. "My people are losing our ability to adapt," Varric explained as he led her through the facility. "Each generation is weaker, less viable. Within 3 generations, we face extinction." Fiona studied the medical data on his screens. "And you think human genetics hold the solution? Your species adapts at a cellular level in ways that defy conventional xenobiology," he said, calling up the research he'd conducted on her tissue samples. "Your DNA repairs itself, evolves to meet environmental challenges. Ours once did the same, but that ability has been systematically bred out through our pursuit of physical perfection." He hesitated, then accessed a secure file. A holographic image appeared, a genetic hybrid of human and Trellian DNA. "This is why the consortium wants your research," Fiona realized. "You found a way to integrate human adaptive genetics into Trellian physiology." Varric nodded. "Theoretically, but the process requires a living donor with specific genetic markers." His silver eyes met hers. "Markers you possess." The implication hung between them. "You need more than just tissue samples," she said quietly. "You need me." "The procedure carries significant risk," he admitted. "I had no right to ask." Fiona approached one of the stasis chambers. Touching the transparent surface where a young Trellian lay suspended in time, their luminescence fading. "Is this why you were so interested in human endurance?" "Not just scientific curiosity, but hope." "Hope I had no right to harbor," Varric said, moving to stand beside her. Fiona turned to face him. "In my culture, we have a saying, the measure of humanity is what we do for others, even when there's nothing in it for ourselves." His bioluminescent patterns flickered with emotion. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I'll help you," she said firmly. "We'll find a way to save your people." Varric's control finally broke. He pulled her close, his forehead touching hers in the Trellian gesture of deepest connection. "Why would you risk yourself for us?" Fiona's hands found their way to his face, tracing the delicate scaling along his cheeks. "Maybe not for all Trellians, but for you?" Their lips met, tentative at first, then with growing certainty. The biochemical reaction was unexpected. A tingling warmth that spread through Fiona's body as Varek's bioluminescence brightened to an intensity that illuminated the entire chamber. When they finally separated, both breathing heavily, Varek's expression was one of wonder. "That was another data point on human Trellian compatibility?" Fiona suggested with a smile. "Evidence that some boundaries were meant to be crossed," he replied, his voice resonating with newfound emotion. "But the procedure will work," she finished for him, "because we'll do it together." As they turned toward the laboratory to begin their work, both knew they were crossing a threshold from which neither could return, a joining of science and emotion, duty and desire that would either save a species or leave them both forever changed in the attempt. The procedure had been successful beyond all projections. 3 weeks after Fiona had volunteered as a genetic donor, the first Trellian patients were showing remarkable recovery. The modified human adaptive genes had integrated seamlessly, reversing generational damage. In the observation room overlooking the recovery ward, Fiona watched a young Trellian female practicing bioluminescent communication patterns that had been impossible for her before the treatment. Beside her, Varek's own luminescence pulsed with barely contained joy. "You've saved them," Fiona said softly. "Your people have a future." "We've saved them," he corrected, his six-fingered hand finding hers. "Without you, this would have remained theoretical." The intimate moment was interrupted by a communication alert. Varek's expression darkened as he viewed the message. "Oh, what is it?" Fiona asked. "The Planetary Council has learned of our work," he said grimly. "They're sending representatives." Fiona understood the implications. Despite their success, the procedure remained controversial. Many Trellian purists opposed genetic integration with lesser species. "When will they arrive?" "Tomorrow," Varek said, "and your government has sent representatives as well." Word has spread about human genetic applications in Trellian medicine.
At night.
Unable to sleep, Fiona found Varek in the laboratory. Reviewing their research, "They'll want to control it," he said, without looking up. "Both sides. The Trellian Council will claim genetic sovereignty, and Earth will demand compensation for human biological contributions." Fiona moved behind him, wrapping her arms around his slender waist. "And us? Where do we fit in their political equations?" Varek turned, his silver eyes reflecting the laboratory lights. "We don't. Interspecies relationships remain taboo, despite our scientific collaboration being celebrated. So we become a footnote in xenobiology textbooks," she asked. "The human and Trellian who made genetic compatibility possible, but couldn't be together? Unless—" Varek hesitated, then accessed a secure terminal. A small research vessel appeared on the screen. "My private transport. Fueled and ready," Fiona understood immediately. "You're suggesting we leave? Abandon both worlds?" "I'm suggesting we choose our own," he replied. "The outer colonies welcome scientific innovation without the political entanglements of Trellia or Earth. Our research could continue there, unfettered, and us." She whispered in answer. Varek pulled her close, his forehead touching hers in the now familiar gesture that had come to mean everything to them. "Some adaptations are permanent, Fiona Winters. You have changed me at a cellular level in ways that no science can quantify." The decision crystallized in that moment. By morning, they had compiled their research into secure data cores and prepared the vessel for departure. As government representatives from both worlds arrived at the facility, their ship broke atmosphere, accelerating toward possibilities. Neither had imagined when they first debated human endurance capabilities on Stellar Research Station Epsilon-9.VAREC. Set coordinates for the outer colonies, while Fiona composed a message to both governments, explaining their decision and attaching detailed research protocols that would allow both species to benefit from their discoveries. No regrets? Varric asked as the stars streaked past their VIEWPORT. Tad Fiona smiled, taking his hand. Humans adapt, she said simply. And apparently so do trillions when properly motivated. His bioluminescence brightened in the pattern she now recognized as profound happiness. To adaptation, then, he said. And unexpected connections, she added. Leaning into his embrace as their ship carried them toward a future, neither could have foreseen a future where the boundaries between species, like the boundaries of science itself, existed only to be transcended by those willing to risk everything for discovery. And perhaps, most remarkably of all, for love.